We are so excited at the International Quilt Museum to be able to quilt the decades with you all. We do have the world's largest collection of quilts. It's exciting to see the changes and the influences, whether that is design principles, fashion, architecture.
I've written 15 books on African American quilts, and I've been involved in quilt making now for 55 years. And don't see any end in sight.
Hello everybody and welcome to this Quilt the Decades Quiltfolk welcome party.
Yes, well,
we're very excited to be here, as
you
can tell. We love that trailer. The guys did a fantastic job. And most importantly, wherever you are in the world, it's World Quilting Day.
It is, yeah. Cheers
so
to
let's
that.
all start with a cheers.
Yeah, cheers to World Quilting Day.
You might get time to do some quilting or you might not, but we're very grateful that you've made time to come and hang out with us.
Absolutely.
So if you don't know us, then we are your hosts for the Quiltfolk Block of the Month and the teachers. My name is Jenni Smith.
And I'm Kay Walsh, and we know some of you might know us, but if you don't, we just want to point out we don't always dress like this, but there are various reasons. Our favourite decade just happens to be the 80s. So we have come in our 80s gear, which if you know us, you probably know that already. And this day just always seems to coincide, World Quilting Day, doesn't it, with an 80s party that we go to in our local town. So we have got a double reason to be dressed up tonight.
Yeah, because we're going out dancing after the show, aren't we?
We are.
Oh, but yeah, we just want to have lots of fun today, and just to say, if you signed up for the bomb, then you're very welcome to be here. This isn't the official start, the programme starts in April, and if you haven't joined us yet, why we like to have this welcome party is that you can just come along and listen. We're going to tell you lots of things about the programme, and then you can see if you do want to join us. But if you don't, there's absolutely no pressure, just enjoy this time with us today.
Absolutely. So in case you haven't joined us before and you are logged in, you want to chat to us, there is a chat function which you should be able to see on the right hand side of your screen. So chat away there and we will do our best to answer any questions as we go along, won't we?
Yes, we've got a very fun-filled hour lined up for all of you.
We have. We're going to meet some of our special guests that we've got coming up during the programme.
Yes, we've got some little films with some of them, and we're also going to find out more about the schedule and what we'll be doing month by month. Like I say, it starts in April and runs through to December.
Yep, we have also got a great welcome gift for you if you have signed up or if you're going to sign up, so we're going to show you a bit more about that.
And we've got some amazing giveaways as well.
We have, yes.
But you're going to want to stick around
yeah,
for.
You definitely need to stick around to find out what they are. They're
fantastic.
Fantastic.
Something different, isn't it, this time as well,
yeah.
that we haven't done?
Absolutely. And there is going to be an icebreaker challenge. So if you did join us on our previous block of the month, you'll know we did an icebreaker challenge for that. So we're going to tell you what our one is for this time later on.
Yes. So, like I say, I'm Jenni and this is Kay. Kay bought these mugs with our initials on because I was always picking up her.
Always drinking my tea.
Yes, and getting in trouble. But we are presenters, obviously. We work with Quiltfolk, we're teachers, we're authors. We've written 2 books in our time so far, one with Liberty of London and a new one that's just come out called Menopause Makes. And you might be able to tell from our accent that we're in England. We're in the north of England. We're based in a town called Ilkley. And Kay and I work here with Chris and James, and we're the Quiltfolk UK team. The rest of the team are over in the United States, in Oregon and
yeah.
a few different places. Emily's moved, hasn't she, now to
Yes,
Denver?
yeah.
So we'll show you our space. This is our little studio there with the bright orange door and the nice little grass on the roof. There's more flowers now from when that photo was taken all around the garden as well, and a little sunny spot we can have our cups of tea in when it's summertime outside.
Yeah.
And
that's inside the studio. So yes, you can see that was behind the scenes of one of our previous live nights. I can't remember which one.
I think it was the New York Adventure. When
was
we were
it the New York
presenting
Adventure?
that,
Yes. So yes. Well, if you are eagle-eyed and you've been with us before, you can see maybe from that shot, but also when you come back to us, that we have updated our studio a bit, haven't we?
Yes.
The guys have been very busy post-Christmas and have redecorated and built us a bit of a new set, so we're all updated for the new year, aren't we?
Yeah, I think another time we'll have to make a special little film and show you all the nooks and crannies and the storage for all our fabrics and things, but we've got a cool little quilt ladder, new shelves to put all our little trinkets from, because obviously when we present the Quiltfolk Adventure workshops, we go off on lots of travels and invariably bring some nice gifts home and things, don't we, as well, and nice mementos.
Yeah.
Our shelves of curiosities are behind us, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So like Jenni mentioned there, so we also, if you don't know, host the Quiltfolk Adventure workshops. So we travel 3 times a year to different locations and find out all about the quilts and the quilters in those places. And this is now our 3rd block of the month with Quiltfolk as well. So we did Patchwork and Prose, which was all about books and book covers.
I think Margaret Fleischer might be joining us, so if you're
Oh,
hello,
hi Margaret.
So she inspired the Patchwork and Prose block of the month and worked with us on that, didn't she? She's a fantastic quilter over in Philadelphia.
Yep, and then our last block of the month was Break the Rules. So this is now our 3rd one, isn't it?
Yeah. And
Exciting.
I think Quiltfolk Bombs are definitely like no others. Obviously we have a live session and everything, but I think hopefully you can tell that they're good fun, and that's what we love, is building this incredible community of people all around the world and doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, we know there's already some familiar faces out there, don't we? Because there is a Facebook group, and if you join, we're going to tell you a bit later how to join the Facebook group if you do decide to join us, but we know some of you have already joined because we've been having a peek into the Facebook group. So thank you if you're coming back and you've done something with us before and you've chosen to come back. We really appreciate it. But if you're new here, like Jenni said, you're very welcome as well.
Yes, so a welcome gift is going to start shipping out to everybody soon, and when you do sign up, then that will also be on the way to you, and we're going to take a little look at that now.
Oh, nice. So there is a notebook that you can see on the left hand side there with so it's a ring bound one. Very nice, isn't it? So you can record everything for your journey. A beautiful black wing pencil. We love those pencils, don't we? Yeah,
they're very nice. They've got a fantastic website with some little behind the scenes films on all about the history of the pencil. Lots of famous illustrators and things have used them, haven't they? They're very classy.
Yeah.
Say Quiltfolk on. You were saying to record your notes in like
a record.
I don't know if you've done it on purpose.
I didn't.
And a really cool sticker sheet as well, or a couple of sticker sheets for each of the decades. We're starting in the 1930s and moving up from there, so you'll be able to make some little notes and decorate your notebook as well. And I think, is there another slide of the back?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
There we go. You can see, that's on the left hand side is the back of the notebook. Again, some really cool illustrations with those records, vinyls.
Yeah, and a nice colour wheel as well in there. So that is, like I say, that's for people when you register to do the block of the month, then you automatically get the welcome gift, and they'll be on the way to you soon. I think some have arrived at the warehouse over in Oregon, and then they ship out around the world. Yeah, so they have just updated us and told us, Quiltfolk have told us that they should start shipping next week. Okay. Hopefully, so they'll be on their way to you very soon if you've already signed up. And there will also be a graduation gift as well, which we keep under wraps until we get close to the end. So there's no slide for that because it will be a nice surprise. Absolutely. Yeah. So why have we chosen the decades for our bomb this time? Well, I think that we love, because the great thing we love about a BOM is that we get to know each other and you can really dive into something. Obviously, if you know it's a one-off workshop, you don't always have that luxury, do you?
No.
So because we can work through those decades, we've got plenty of time to be able to do that. But it also means that we can teach a real broad range of skills, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we just decided what better framework than the decades. So like I said, in Patchwork and Prose, we looked at a lot of reading, didn't we? But we also love music, we love fashion, and obviously we love quilts. And we just thought that the decades gave us a really good framework to dive into all those different eras and find out about the different elements, what was going on at those times.
Yeah, and obviously Quiltfolk have been producing their beautiful magazine for the last 6 years and travelling around so many different states and meeting all these incredible people as well. You know, they know a lot of people who've been there and experienced those things. So in terms of special guests and people who can share stories with us, there's lots of rich history there, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, obviously, if you came along to break the rules, we had Roderick Kirikoff and his Unconventional and Unexpected book, which was a great source of inspiration. But that was from about the 1950s onwards, and we wanted to also go back a bit further, didn't we? And come also right up to the present as well.
Yeah, because it's, you know, we've been quilting now I've been quilting for about 19 years. But again, you don't always sit down and learn so much about the past, do you?
No.
And I think if you can, and you can really get to grips with that, it can be a huge, you know, source of inspiration for then how you develop as a quilter in the future as well.
Yeah, and we've all lived through at least a few decades. I mean, probably a few more.
Some more than others.
Exactly. But we've also got a lot to learn, and I think we also felt that, you know, you have a real nostalgia, don't you, to whatever possibly, like, you know, we were born in the 70s, which is obviously probably why we love the 80s so much, because that was a time when we were growing up and being teenagers and going out and all those kinds of things. So that's what sticks in your memory, and you have that nostalgia. But also, we want, like you said, it's so interesting to think about what came before, isn't it? And
I
what
think
was
you have
going
like
on.
Familial links, and then when I think back to like the clothes that my mum wore, or you know, the patterns on their duvet and bedspreads in their room. You know, quilts were a big thing in our life here in the UK, were they? But there's still like a real nostalgia for fabric. Laura Ashley, you know, Liberty, those prints that you love. And I think knowing a little bit more about the trends and how they were produced, like fabrics, trends, quilts, there's just a lot that we can dive into, isn't there?
Yeah, cannot wait. So how are we going to find out more? Well, we're really, really pleased that we are working along with the International Quilt Museum in Nebraska, and they're going to be joining us every month as well. And so we're going to be delving into their archive, which is extensive, isn't it? Go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that there'll be different people from the museum that will join us, depending on which decade and which quilts we're talking about, because they've got a fantastic team. And I'm very jealous because it's been on our bucket list for a long time, hasn't it?
It has, and I just happened to be in Chicago last month visiting a friend, so I decided it was probably an ideal opportunity to just pop over to Nebraska, because, well, for the US terms, it's probably not that far. It's still a little flight. So I did just go for a couple of days to meet the team and have a look and work out what we might be able to do for this block of the month. So that was an absolutely amazing experience. Yes, we will go again one day. We'll go together, I promise. Yeah. Absolutely.
But are we going to show them a little film then?
Yeah, so we had a great chat with the executive director, Leslie Levy, and we're going to have a look at that now.
We are so excited at the International Quilt Museum to be able to quilt the decades with you all and be a part of this project. I think we're all going to have a lot of fun. I think people will be amazed at what they see, and to be able to share our collection, right? We have the world's largest publicly held collection. So this isn't a private collection, it's a public collection. It's the public's it's the public's to be seen and used and use our quilt and our collection to inspire and to influence and to do fabulous things. And I think to be able to use it in this way and to share it with others and to partner together to do this is fantastic. And I hope it inspires people also to come and visit and to see things and to be inspired by quilts of the past as well as our current quilts, and to maybe encourage people to do something a little new with what they're seeing and learning. We do have the world's largest collection of quilts. Right now, we are at about 11,000 pieces. That's 11,000 quilts and related textiles. Our collection spans over 500 years in 65 countries. So that people can really see a wide spectrum of quilt arts. Oftentimes people don't realize that there are so many genres of quilts or exactly what quilting or patchwork traditions are from around the world. Our museum is accredited in the United States, and we're also part of the University of Nebraska. So that means we are an academic museum. So one of the things that we always strive to do as we're collecting is to make sure that we have representative samples of the various genres of quilts, as well as those quilts across centuries and decades. We always want to make sure that we can capture and preserve for history and further study, as well as just general public enjoyment, what different styles of quilts there are, what certain fabulous trends there were in quilting, whether that's calico prints, in the 70s, or certain colors, or polyester quilts, those things that we do and that we see that really capture certain time periods. You can definitely see changes over the decades, especially when you're looking at American quilting. We see that a lot. And so we're very consciously collecting and stewarding and preserving those well-known quilt makers that were contemporaries that really started during the quilt revival in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, as well as those really particular styles that we saw during the Depression, or the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, what that looks like. And we can show that and see that progression and that change in quilting over those decades.
Do you think there's a big stylistic jump between some of the decades from what you've seen?
Definitely, 1,000%. Right? Which is what makes it so exciting. And you can see the changes and the influences, whether that is design principles, fashion, architecture, all of that influences. I mean, we're seeing climate change, right, is influencing. We see a lot of climate change quilts right now. So I think activism, right? Any of it, all of those influences that people are taking in, you'll see in their quilts. And you can begin to see, without even knowing when a quilt was made, you can look at the design and guess it, usually within a decade, or you can look at the fabrics. But again, beautifully and quintessentially, what we see in marking the ages of quilts is, right, what is available when we're making quilts? What do we see? So, right, in the 30s and 40s, we had feed sacks. We have Depression era quilts. We have quilt kits, and the quilts that are made from those. We see like the Mountain Mist quilts where, right, you bought the package of batting and the quilt pattern was on the packaging, and then we see those quilts being made. Color influences, right? The 1980s, we saw lots of mauve and dusty blue in those kinds of, we see calico prints, we see gingham checks, right? 60s and 70s, we see polyester, quilts with neon, right? I mean, quilts did not escape neon. So, it's those things that we love, right? And shiny fabrics, right? Early 2000s, we begin to see some shiny fabrics showing up. We see, we're moving away from patterns like double wedding rings and log cabins into more modern, streamlined, very simple, minimalistic creations and designs, color palettes, right? Taupes. As we come and circle back architecturally and design-wise to mid-century modern, right? It's having a comeback. We see that in our quilts in the colors. No patterns, right? It's just solids. So I think you can really see different time periods based on that if you know what those are. We will always see makers, designers, artists creating something new that we couldn't have imagined. And I think that's one of the reasons why quilt making is so exciting. And it continues to stay exciting, and it continues to have more and more quilters and makers every year.
Thank you very much, Leslie. We're very excited to be working with IQM, and some of the quilts that we get to see there are going to inform the block designs that we're going to do then in our block of the month together each month, aren't they?
Yeah.
As we go through the decades.
Absolutely, and we'll come a little bit more to the programme shortly, but as we've seen, as Leslie just said, they've got a huge collection. It's diverse, it's amazing. So we're just going to share a few little peeks of what they've got in their collection that's going to start inspiring us. So we just pulled out a few to have a brief look at. This is one of our favourites. We saw this, didn't we, at QuiltCon the other year?
Yeah.
And it's called Sam and Pam.
Oh, Pam and Sam.
Pam and Sam by Patty Poppock. And it's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, Nancy Crow. I mean, that's just beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's going to be
some good geometrics in there.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. So lots of different, that's again Mountain Mist, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to be coming back to that, and there might be a little nice Festival of Quilts tie in there as well later in the year.
Yeah. Oh, that again looks just so geometric, doesn't it?
Yeah, if we could, that looks like the album cover of the tunes we'll be dancing to later tonight.
It does, doesn't it? Very cool. And then we go. So that's, yes, we'll find out lots more about this probably in our first month, because as you can see there, that's celebrating 1833 to 1933, and we're obviously starting in the 30s. So
yeah,
that's going to be a good one to have a look at, isn't it?
Yes. So there are obviously as well, we're going to be looking at US quilts, and we're here in the UK, but also we want to investigate, we're working with the International Quilt Museum, so we want to find out and dive into what was happening at other places all around the world. When did quilting become apparent? What were the styles and the cultures where people were making things? And it'll be fantastic, won't it, to do deep dives into decades in the US and here, but then also to
see what was going on in the world. Yeah.
Yes.
Talking of which, where are you in the world? That's what we always like to know, isn't it?
We know there's quite a few hundreds of you joining us at the minute. So
where are you? And I think some people have already, I saw in the chat right at the beginning that there was some people telling us where they are, but it's always nice to know where you are in the world, where you're joining us from, as we're here in Yorkshire.
Yeah, we'll get to meet, what we love about these block of the months is that you all get to meet each other in the community during the lives. You can chat and everything, so you build up your global audience of quilters, but then you also find out about these incredible makers as well through the quilts that we study, and authors and different people, collectors as well. So it gives you a really nice broad education, but it's fun at the same time, isn't it? So it doesn't feel like too much like school.
No. So, well, we're going to talk through the programme and just give you a bit of a rundown of what we're going to do month by month. But as we said earlier, we're also going to be touching on music and fashion. And so speaking of music, we're putting together a Spotify playlist for every month, so for every decade from the 30s onwards, and you are going to be able to give us suggestions to add to that list. We're going to tell you how to do it. There's a QR code. Apparently the guys have done something really fancy that we don't understand, but we know it works.
We know it works, and that means you'll be able to message us and send some suggestions, and then whilst you're stitching along, if you join the block of the month and when you're doing your homework and things like that, then you'll have some decade inspired tunes to listen to and hopefully find out about some new genres of music as well that inspired the quilts of those times. So we're going to show you that, and as we do that we'll show you, we'll talk through each decade, won't we, a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, 1930s. So, okay, you can see there, yes.
So you will be able to then scan as well if you're very
There's a QR code, apparently.
A little code that will take you to the
And
list.
that's going to be in the hub, is that right, guys? Oh, it's
on there as well.
That's a QR code. Oh,
Go to the search function.
Okay.
Spotify, do a little camera, press that, and then it'll take you through.
okay, you go to the search function on Spotify and use your camera, and then it's there. And we'll write that all down and put it in the hub, I think.
Yeah, and in the notes here. But the boys have also...
They're looking at us like, why are we working with these old people who don't know what they're talking about?
We're good at sewing, though. We promise you that. We're very good at sewing. And yes, we've already got some tunes in there, so you can start listening.
30s.
So, month one, when we do kick off in April, the thrifty 30s, feed sack fever, big band music, and the evolution of the bias cutting fashion, which we thought we should maybe also explore as well. It might have been the Great Depression, but our first month is going to be a lot of fun and guaranteed to make you smile. And we've already picked out some of the quilts that we're going to be talking to the International Quilt Museum about. The very varied and the very beautiful, and we haven't found out all the details yet, but we know it's going to be a good one, don't we? And we've already pick something that we want to teach to you guys.
Yes. So 1940s, the frugal 40s. Red Cross quilts and transatlantic tails in cloth. So lots going on obviously in that kind of post-war era. Maybe some of your ancestors were stitching along to Sinatra or Crosby or watching a classic movie. There's a lot of good movies, I think, as well. We might have to also look at films, or there's too many things, aren't there? Okay, whilst they were dreaming up their next quilt project. Yeah, so this is going to be the perfect session and to start recording your story. And that's what we always want to do with our block of the month as well. As you'll find out as we go along, we want it to be personal to you. So we're interested in you guys as well, and we want to find out, and we also all want to know what our history is as well, don't we, I think?
Yeah, and each month in our live sessions, we play in galleries and share the works of all our students so that you can all really celebrate each other's creativity. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things that people get out of our programmes is the camaraderie between people and the help from other quilters. We're always very inspired by the people who take our class, because they always take it to a whole new level, don't they? Yeah. And quilt kits and things were something that were introduced in the 40s as well, which were really interesting. So month 3 is the 1950s and post-war prosperity. So we'll be thinking a little bit about that mid-century modern design, vibrancy, colour in the 50s as well. But what were the quilters making at the start of the space age?
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that mid-century stuff, all coming back, isn't it?
You know, because I think people talk a lot about the big quilt revival that comes in a couple of decades later, but actually what was going on before that, and why was it then such a big shift? I think I'm really interested to find out that.
Yeah. Okay, the swinging 60s, lots of fashion going on in the 60s, and as it entered the kind of fashion and political eras as well in the 60s, we think. So we're going to celebrate psychedelic patterns, experimentation, also whilst we kind of carry on grooving along to some of the most amazing pop bands in the world, I think, that came out in the 60s as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good Spotify playlist.
Yeah, and I was just thinking I've got a really cool outfit for the 60s. Not that it's all about that, but we do like dressing up. Okay, the 70s, so the spirited 70s, and people talk so much about this big quilt revival, but what we hope is that we'll get a deeper understanding of what that meant when quilts started to take centre stage and started to look very different from what they had done previously, really. So we're going to dive into disco and double knits.
Yeah.
We're going to revel in the unexpected. And also what's fantastic is that one of our special guests, and you're going to see a little film with her later today, is Jean Wells. And in the 70s, she started the stitching poster shop, but most importantly, the outdoor quilt show at Sisters in Oregon. So it's going to be amazing. Jean has been in this industry, since the 70s, so good 50 years, and she's got lots of insights. We had a brilliant call with her, didn't we, last week, when she was getting very excited about all the things that she'll be able to share.
Yeah, we're going to hear from her later. Okay, the experimental 80s, it's our decade. Neon, what's not to love? Bold designs, brush colours, and we're going to be speaking as well with Dr. Carolyn Mazloomi, who we're going to hear from a bit more later on, because it was in this time that she set up the Women of Colour Quilters Network. So yeah, lots and lots to learn about as well. So we will hear from Dr. Carolyn Mazloomi later on. She's amazing. Yes,
we need to go to her house.
Yeah.
Okay, month 7. So we'll be trotting along, and we'll be getting into the nostalgic 90s, but we'll be thinking about minimalism and modernity. So we're going to be thinking about the modern movement, a new generation of hobbyist quilters. And again, we've got another special guest who is just perfect for that decade, and that is Denise Schmidt. So she is very excited to be on board with us as well. She loves Quiltfolk. She said, yes, this sounds right up my street. I'd love to be part of it. So that'll be great, won't it? And all this time, throughout these decades, there will be fantastic blocks to stitch up, and you will be able to put your own spin on them. Excuse the pun.
Excuse the pun, which is meant, yes. Okay, into the 2000s, or the noughties, I guess.
Yeah.
The technological 2000s, the noughties and negative space. So yeah, obviously we've got the internet and what's going on with people, quilters starting to share things on the internet, and global conversations around textiles. Lots of new personalities bursting onto the scene during this time, including Valerie Wells, who is Jean's daughter and is a fabric designer, amongst many other things. So we're also going to be hearing from Valerie, aren't we?
Yes, her and her mum are special guests. So together they'll share, joint insights, but they've both had very different careers in their own right as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
So that'll be fantastic. And then month 9, so by this point we'll be having, you'll be getting your special graduation gift. We always have a nice cocktail and a finish up, don't we, with our party as well, and looking at the modern quilting movement. So in our graduation party, we'll have a nice roundup of all that we've learnt, and we'll celebrate how we can see how all these quilts of the past and these people that we've learnt about are going to inform what we're creating now and how that might go on in the future. The lady, I've forgotten her name now, the old lady who runs the museum, Rachel K. Shuttleworth.
Oh, yes.
And there's kind of variations of this quilt, but she always, there's a nice embroidery near us, a fantastic quilt collection, and it says, cherish the past, adorn the present, and create for the future. And I think the structure of this bomb is very much going to allow us to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very, very exciting and interesting. Okay, so skills. What are we going to learn? So, lots of things. Hopefully, like we said, there'll be a block every month. We're going to come on to that. But Y seams, we're going to look at alternatives to English paper piecing, freezer paper techniques, inset circles, amongst many other things.
Yes. And we meet every month, like I said, for a live 2-hour session. As soon as that's gone out live, then it is also then in the attendee hub. We're going to have a look at that in a moment. So if you can't make it to all the sessions, obviously all the dates are already published, so you can put them on your calendar. But if you miss one, then you can watch it, and also all the resources then are there for you. You can watch everything back for as long as you want, and there's access to that is beyond when the block of the month finishes. There isn't a cut-off point at the end, so all our hubs from previous block of the months are still operational. People are still finishing off the quilts, posting about them. There's no rush, and there's never any pressure, because we know that life often gets in the way, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
With the best will in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not about the finishes, it's about the journey. So,
yes.
Absolutely. So we keep saying the hub, and if you haven't joined us before, that might make no sense at all. So we're just going to give you a little walkthrough of what the hub is. And it's basically the place that lives on the Quiltfolk website, which has got all the resources for everything you need if you join our block of the month. So you can see on the screen now, this is our our hub for the previous BOM, Break the Rules, and you can just see then that on the left hand side you've got this list with all the tabs in, and it gives you everything you need. So the schedule is there, and obviously there's a brand new one for our new block of the month, but that's not got as much information in it yet, so we just wanted to show you this one to give you all an idea. So yeah, you've got the schedule, and then the next tab you can see will have the recording of what needs to be, if there's any prep, and we record a prep video, and that will be live about 2 weeks before the actual live session for each month. So if there's any special tools or anything that you need, then that will be in that tab there. The welcome party is a welcome party, that's today. You'll be able to watch it back if you want to. And then there's a tab for every month. And if you can see there in month 1, there will be a replay of the live session. So if you have missed it, like Jenni said, then you'll be able to go back in there and see what's going on. And then on the right hand side of there, you can see there's other little tabs, and there's a drop down box. So for example, homework, if we've set you something to make, then it'll be in there. And anything else, any other information that you need. If we've chatted to people and there's resources and things like that, that will all be under each individual month as well. So lots of information there.
Yeah, and because the live sessions are 2 hours long, we do then break them up, so with timestamps about the tutorials, so you can just go back into the recording and find a specific one, and as you scroll through the video, those are marked as well, so you can just think, okay, I want to make that, and it's there. You don't have to labour through the whole thing, do you?
No. So everything you need will be in the hub. And there's a gallery. We must talk about that. So yes, show your work, online gallery. So there is the Facebook group, which we've talked about, and there's a link there on the right hand side. You can see that's a private Facebook group, so only people that have signed up to this block of the month will be in that Facebook group. And obviously anything you make you can share, and it's a really, really supportive place, isn't it?
Yeah,
everyone
fantastic.
in there is brilliant, and they really support each other and give great feedback, or if you want any advice about what you're making, it's just a fantastic place to be if you can. If you're not on Facebook though, you can still share anything that you make with us with this online gallery, and that's through that tab there that you can see on the left, the button, and then you can upload anything, any blocks that you make, and everyone can see them there. So
yeah, that's nice, because I think sometimes, again, if you don't want all the noise of the text and refinding something, you just want some visual stimulation, you can go into the hub, look at the gallery and see what people are up to, and then share your work there as well. And also people that just don't want to engage with social media, we totally understand that, so you can use that gallery, and also you can contact Kay and I directly through the hub as well, and email and send images and messages and things to us, so that you can have a feel like you're having a two-way conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll always try and answer whatever you need, and we'll be in the Facebook group as well, and we're always looking at what's going on. Even if we don't get a chance to comment on everything, we absolutely look at everything, don't we?
Yeah, so we will be teaching you a block every month, and if you've attended one of our previous block of the months, you'll know that what we really want, again, is to always give enough scope and freedom for people to put their own spin on it, because people that join these programs, we have diverse range of skills and experience, and so we give lots of different suggestions. Sometimes there's bonus challenges, optional challenges, if you want to take something, if you enjoy a little bit of improv more, but this time there is going to be a block. But what we don't do and never have done is publish an absolute finished pattern of what we're going to do beforehand, because there's too much joy, we think, in learning and discovering that as you go, and we give people the framework. When we get towards the end, we talk about sashing and borders, how to put different size blocks together, but never as yet have we had anybody, and we've had hundreds and hundreds of people take our bombs, that haven't managed to get a finish that they're happy with. But also because it feels unique and original, I think that really sparks joy, and so we find it hard to feel locked into a pattern, don't we? But definitely we're going to be teaching blocks this time. There's always going to be a block that you can do, but there will be optional spin-offs as well.
Spin-offs.
Oh, there's so many good terms you can use for records.
Yeah, but like Jenni said, we want to get your personality in there, don't we? And for you to feel like you're really connected to what you make, because then if you love it, and you love what you're making, it's much more special, isn't it?
Yeah, and we want to develop you as quilters. You know, we do genuinely believe that life does begin a little bit on the edge of your comfort zone. You know, break the rules. The bond we did last year was very much about trying different things and how does that make you feel. And, you know, you don't have to then do that all the time. You can be making very traditional pattern-led quilts at the same time. We value those massively, and we're going to be studying lots of those. But equally, we really feel there's joy and value in just trying to feel a little bit more independent, and you guys take the lead as well. And also, you always take us down rabbit holes and side roads that we would never imagine when we start these programs, and I think that's what makes them so brilliant, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we don't tell you what specific fabrics to buy, because again, we kind of hope that a lot of the blocks that we teach are going to be good stash busters. A lot of quilters, if you've been quilting for a while, have got a stash, but if, like we said in the hub, if there's anything specific, it will be in there, but it tends not to be specific fabric, because again, well, we're going to be looking at different things, aren't we? Different fabrics, different styles as we go through the decades.
But we'll always give you enough notice, like if we're going to be throwing in some neons in the 80s, which we probably will be if Kay's in charge, then why not? Or some monochromes and things like that.
Yeah, then we will let you know, we'll give you advice.
I mean, I might have been buying just a bit of fabric, but are we going to show them a few slides?
I think we're going to just show a couple of slides, yeah. So yes, Ruby Star Society speckled fabric.
We like this because Rashida Coleman Hale has designed this. It's by Moda, it's, you know, so it's widely available, and she's just brought out some new fantastic colours. But just rather than, you know, solid colours are fantastic as well, but I think sometimes it's nice when you've got a little pop of something. They have, like, well, as it suggests, little speckles of colour, sometimes a little bit of metallic or something thrown in there. So they might be fun, you know, because sometimes you just want to buy a few fat quarters to get excited, don't you?
Yeah.
So you could think of a decade that you like, and anyway, we'll come into that. But yeah, we like that.
We like that.
I can show you that live in a minute as well.
Yeah, and then the other one that we've got is, Moda Grunge. Well, if Margaret says, she'll know exactly why we love this.
Yeah, we use this a lot in the Patchwork and Prose block of the month. Again, because it's they register as not just as flat colour, they look a little bit like a wall that's aged, don't they?
They do.
You get these kind of different tones slightly across them. So when they're cut and pieced into blocks, and particularly then, like when you see images of them, they just give a little bit of texture, don't they? Which we really, really like, a bit more painterly. And there's quite a lot of fabrics out there at the moment that are really tapping into that, aren't they? Like more ombres and moody fabrics, not just flat.
Not just flat, yeah, but they kind of register as a solid, and that's something handy, isn't it, to have. If that's what you're missing, I think quite often sometimes, or we felt we were missing that back a few years ago, didn't we? Because I think historically we like pattern quite a lot, and somebody really, I mean, she says
we're the opposite tonight.
We are. So sometimes having that kind of one that registers a bit more as a solid is really handy to have, isn't it? And so what have you been buying,
Well,
Jenni?
just a wee bit of speckled.
Oh, it's just...
Because it's like the new...
Look at those colours. That's the thing, you can't resist the colours, can you?
No, just
They're
really, really nice.
absolutely beautiful.
Just some little fat
And
quarters.
and it's the fact that even in each one you've got then, that's beautiful, isn't it? Pink, but with bits of brighter pink and blue and what have you.
Yeah, look at those. Anyway, so yeah.
So
we
very
will
nice.
obviously, and we guarantee you that yes, we'll encourage you to use your stash, and to if there's things, fabrics that you wouldn't have thought you would have liked, I think we'll always challenge you month by month as well to think a little bit differently. We've done that previously, haven't we?
Yeah.
Quite a bit. But we'll guarantee that we'll have special guests that are going to make you want to go and buy new fabric as well, and probably the giveaway we're going to talk about soon might want you to do that as well.
Okay, so as we've said, we want this to be personal, and so to start off with, so we can find out a bit more about you, we've come up with an icebreaker challenge, which we did, like we said, for our last block of the month. And this time, what we want you to do is to come up with a number that is significant to you for whatever reason. So it might be your birth year, it might be a special anniversary, or
it might be the year that you started quilting.
It might.
And we're calling this challenge Count Me In.
Count Me In. Because because it's about numbers.
But it's optional.
It's totally optional, absolutely. As is everything as we go along. We're never going to check up whether you've done it or not. So if you've got time and you want to, then this is an optional challenge. So you can come up with a block, however that is, whatever that looks like, that's got a number in it that means something to you. And then if you share it with us, either in the Facebook group or in the online hub, and tell us a little bit about why you've maybe picked that number, and then we can all learn a bit more about each other, can't we?
Yeah. So I'm going to kick this off and show you a little bit on the overhead as well. I started quilting in 2006, 19 years ago, and I was living in Toronto for a year, and I walked into a quilt shop called the Quilter's Garden, and there was literally K-facet fabric, wall-to-wall K-facet fabric, and it totally blew me. Blew me away. I was like, okay, I need to, whatever this is, I need to start doing it, I think.
Yeah.
So I have picked a nice classic cave. I can't remember if it's the paperweight or the Roman glass one, but they're kind of this similar thing inspired by the Venetian glass. And I have got Quiet Play. Did we get?
Yes,
yeah,
we'll show a slide in a little
minute,
while.
okay,
yeah, but yes, we'll show you what the pattern was.
So I did a little bit of foundation paper piecing, and I don't think I was scared of colour when I first started quilting.
No.
I think maybe somewhere in the middle I then got a little bit intimidated and thought, oh, you meant to do it this way, or do it like this, or do it like that. And we got back into that in the last one, like that you don't have to worry about it. But the reason I just then chose this really bright shot cotton to go with it was because I felt like I was pretty fearless back in 2006, and so that was a nice memory.
Very good.
I don't know, these end up, the pattern as it is, they end up at 5 inches square. I'm leaving them like this at the moment. I could also do the 2 and the 0, or I might end up doing more numbers as we go along. So for now, that's me, and we'll see how it develops as the months go by.
Okay, so you can use a pattern, and we'll show you a couple just in a minute of ones that we've picked out that we like. So you can pick any number you want, and you can also do it in any technique you want. You could do an FPP pattern, you could maybe just embroider something, or
Bondaweb it on the top.
Absolutely,
and
free
don't worry
motion
about
it.
finishing it off till later. We can teach how to do that later.
Absolutely. Any technique you want that you might want. You can just draw something on a bit of fabric if you want, get a felt tip, that's absolutely fine. But I've gone a little bit more, what's the word?
Cerebral, I would say.
Cerebral. I wasn't going to say that, but happy with that. Okay, so I've made this block here that you can see, and I realised that the first quilt I made was in 2011. So I've gone 4 strips to my block. The first one has got 2 half square triangles in it, so that's a 2. The second one has got nothing, it's just a piece of fabric, so that's my 0. And then this one has got 1 little stripe, so that's a 1. And this one's got 1 little heart, so that's a 1. So it's 2, 0, 1, 1. 2011.
And that's from our Liberty book.
That is from our Liberty book, yes. So mine's 2011, but you wouldn't necessarily know unless I told you.
It still looks 80s.
Shock horror, even though
it was 2011.
I think that might be my colour choice, maybe, mightn't it?
Yeah, hot pink.
But you could pick 2 stripes and 3 dots or something, couldn't you?
Yeah,
if that was 23 was your number or whatever. Yeah,
you can definitely think about it creatively, and that's why we like to set these, because what will happen is you'll make the block and then hopefully you'll share it in the gallery or with us or in the Facebook group, and just give us a little bit of snippet of information so we can start to get to know each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of patterns that we've just picked out. So the one that Jenni used for her numbers was by Quiet Play. It's called Just My Type, and that's a foundation paper piecing pattern. And then we've just picked out one more, which is another foundation paper piecing, and this is by a company called Patch and Dot. There's probably loads out there if you just look, if you want to use a pattern. Lots of things you could pick, but
you'll probably already have a book with some in and things
quite
as well.
possibly,
It's one of the, it's good to go back and see what resources you've already got sometime.
Absolutely. So we're now going to meet another one of our special guests, Dr. Carolyn Mazloomi.
My name is Carolyn Mazloomi, and I live in Ohio, actually near Cincinnati, Ohio, in Westchester. And I am the founder of the Women of Color Quilters Network. I am a collector of quilts. I'm a quilt historian and curator. I've written 15 books on African American quilts, and I've just started selling off my collection because I had so many. I had several hundred quilts, and I sold a portion of them to the International Quilt Museum as well as the Smithsonian American Art Museum. And the Smithsonian will open a 6-month exhibition that will include the 35 quilts that they acquired for their permanent collection. I've been involved in quilt making now for 55 years and don't see any end in sight because it's quite addictive, and I have more time to quilt now since I'm not directing the Women of Color Quilters Network. So I'm pretty much making my own quilts and doing involved in my own exhibitions now currently. So it's still rather busy in a quilty sort of way. It's always interesting for me to talk about the Women of Color Quilters Network and the work that they produce because all of the work that I have collected over the past 50 years, as well as the work coming out of the network, have been narrative quilts. That is my passion. I love story quilts. And the story quilts that come from the network are very unique to our culture. So that makes them very special and to me very interesting. These are the stories of our lives here, our lived lives here in the United States. I find it very interesting that one can create such complex and interesting stories just with thread and needle. So it's important. Each piece is like a historic document that carries weighty stories. So it's important. Over the last 50 years, I've curated exhibitions dealing with many, many subjects. With each exhibition, I have written a book. So within the body of that work, there, I'll just name a few of the exhibitions. One dealt with the history of jazz music in Black history. Um, Music is very important within the culture. So, in this particular exhibition, each artist chose a piece of jazz music or a musician and rendered a narrative piece about them. So, when I say that the quilts and exhibitions encompass all eras. I'm talking about the expanse of the entire history of our country from its founding to present day. So there's something being offered exhibition wise and quilt wise to encompass all those eras. So um, we leave nothing out. But I have to say, too, as a aside, that music and spirituality is very important in the Black community. So you'll see a lot of quilts that depict issues surrounding those two subjects. I collect art. I collect quilts. I just collect stuff. So I want I want to wake up and be surrounded by all my favorite paintings and my favorite quilts. I want to live with them. I want to see them. So my husband calls our home Carolyn's Museum.
Thank you, Carolyn. Like she said, music is going to be a big part as well of what she's going to teach us about, with so much more, and some of the quilts that we know she's going to tell us about is going to be they're just going to be very inspirational, aren't they?
Absolutely, cannot wait. So just briefly going back to the numbers challenge, the count me in challenge, I just wanted to show you another thing that I've got on the overhead here. So you could maybe slightly cheat, and this is a part of a garment that Jenni and I picked up in New York on our last adventure, isn't it? Well, you spotted this, didn't you, in Fab Scrap where we went, and it just happens to have on the numbers of my birth year. So that could be another block already.
Yeah. Exactly, and we'll touch on...
You might have something lying around.
Yeah, and if you didn't break the rules with us in our last bomb, then we'll definitely touch upon working with different fabric substrates, like Leslie mentioned, polyester and things, you know. There'll be different double knits that will be coming up, and then we can give you top tips for incorporating those into your finished project as well. Another special guest, so we're not playing in a film today, but we're really excited that Denise Schmidt is going to be part of the programme. She'll be coming along later in the decades. Like we said, you know, she came onto the scene in the 90s and is very much known for, well, her singular design and fine traditional craftsmanship, how she took old quilts and put a very new spin on them, feminism, and I think that Denise is very well regarded, and also, you know, people would say that she's changed the way that a lot of people think about the craft that we work in. So we can't wait to speak with her. I mean, personally, I've got a couple of Denise's books, and she's just someone I've always wanted to get to meet, so we get to do it for our job.
Excellent. Okay, and our next guest, well, Quiltfolk was founded in Oregon, and this mother and daughter combo that we've also briefly mentioned are based there, and we're going to meet them now.
Hi, everybody. I'm pretty excited about this experience that Valerie and I are going to have. I am Jean Wells, and I live in Sisters, Oregon.
And I'm Valerie, and we have been in the quilting industry for 50 years plus. Mom started our shop back in 1975. I was a year and a half, so I don't know any better.
She never knew the difference.
Yes. But we are really excited to share our journey. And for us, I grew up and then we started working together, and we have a very, very unique relationship. Besides being business partners, we create things together. We're the people that we call the most when we're stuck and we send pictures. Can you help me with this? So we are thrilled to get to share some of our favorite times over the years working together and talking about our shop and our events.
In 1975, I took my money out of retirement from being a school teacher for 8 years. It was $3,200, and started a fabric shop. And at that point, I had discovered patchwork. People weren't using the word quilting. It was just patchwork. And I saw an old, turned out it was an antique log cabin quilt block somebody had made into a pillow on the cover of a magazine. And it haunted me until I realized I was trying to figure out how to make it. And finally, I thought, I need to start in the middle and then just add out. You would have thought that I invented log cabin. And it is still one of my very, very favorite blocks. Through the years, I did a lot of different things with fabric. When I was asked to write a book, I freaked out because I thought it was like a term paper. And Marty Michelle from yours truly convinced me that I already had a book with all my handouts that I gave to my students. And that's how I did my first book. And I have just completed the 31st book, which is a celebration of 50 years of patchwork and quilting in America. And it comes out this spring in late May, early June.
Which also coincides with the celebration of our 50th year in business and the 50th year of the Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show, which is huge.
Yeah. I had opened the store in May, and then there was another girl. She was a young gal that had just gotten out of college, and she opened a boutique that people made pottery and
Artisan crafties of the 70s.
And she said, well, Jean, I want to have a kind of outdoor show this weekend, and I want you to hang some quilts. And at that point, I had only made 2 quilts, and they were for the kids. And the kids used them, so they weren't really exciting. But my mom had quilts for my grandma in the cedar chest. So I drove to my mom's house, got the quilts, and we hung 10 quilts out. And I asked some of the ladies in town who had quilts if they wanted to hang them out before. And they said, oh, no, we don't want to do that. And then the day of the show, here they come with a quilt in their arms. Well, you can hang mine. So that's how quilt shows started.
Growing up in this shop and with quilt show and everything, you know, I was always like, I want to be an artist, but I want to do my own thing. I must do my own thing, right? So I really was fascinated with photography and studied photography in college. And Mom asked me to do the photography for one of her books in between my junior and senior year in college. And I became obsessed with fabric. I had been going to an art school, and I had always had a lot of respect for my mom, but then I understood the art form. Like, it connected to me. I'm like, oh. And
then she got obsessed with fabric.
Yeah, then I was obsessed with fabric. So after college, I happened to move to North Carolina following some boy, as we do in our early 20s, and couldn't find a job in photography as a very liberal West Coast girl in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I was working on a quilt for my mom and I's book called Through the Garden Gate. And I had told Mom, I said, I'm going to make a quilt for this book. Little did I know, I didn't find this out till 20 years later, that she had a backup quilt in case mine wasn't good enough.
No, in case you didn't get it done.
Anyway, needless to say, I sat in this tiny little apartment in North Carolina without a job and my cat and made this quilt inspired by here and my mom's garden, because I grew up in her garden, and decided I was going to quilt it. And I called her and I said, what's that thing where you like draw with a thread, Mom? And she's like, oh, that's machine quilting. Just go somewhere that has a Bernina and get a darning foot, get some thread and drop your feed dogs and just draw. She didn't say it was hard. She didn't give me any other rules. And so I did it. I'm like, Mom thinks I can do it. I'm going to do it. So I did it, and then I sent her the quilt, and she cried. And it is in our book. Thank goodness. It was good enough. But at the same time, since I couldn't find a job, I ended up working at that quilt shop that I went to get my darning foot. It was called Fran's Quilt Shop. And as I was there, I realized in the depths of being in fabric that I could design much better fabric. And so I told my mom, like, Mom, I want to design fabric. She's like, oh, I know somebody. And sent me down to Springs Industries in Charlotte, where they had a small division called Quilters Only. And it only sold to independent quilt shops, like the ones that we own. And she introduced me to this young woman named Debbie Stark, who I still work for. And I started my first fabric collection then. So now 27 years later, I'm still designing fabric, and we're still running an amazing job. Although she is supposed to be retired.
I am retired. I'm doing what I love.
Thank you to Jean and Valerie. So you've met a few of our special guests today, but we like to keep some surprises for as we go along as well.
Yes, we've got many decades to cover, haven't we? And Jean and Valerie have put together the special giveaways for us, so they're going to tell us about that now.
Mom and I are so excited because we have put together some very special fabric bundles. I have a new collection that is coming out in May of this year called Findings, and I am going to make you a really beautiful bundle of that. We also are lucky because Free Spirit is working with Quilt Show and our poster artist, Kathy Dagendorfer, and we have a special celebratory 50th anniversary collection, and we'll make you a bundle of that. As well as my mother here has been designing batiks for Island Batik, and she has a new collection, and she's going to curate a special bundle for you also.
And I'll have a little surprise on it.
Oh, and a surprise. Oh, we'll include surprises, like, you know, things that we make.
Right, let's just take a little closer look then. We've got some of the images that Jean and Valerie sent to us. So coming up on the screen there, you can see that is Valerie's upcoming collection, and she's put together some nice amounts as well. I think plenty with that, like half
yards, I think, yes.
So those are one of the prizes. And then these are the batiks of Jean Wells as well, and they look very, very lovely in a nice bundle.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that's the very lovely pincushion that Jean has made with her batik collection, and you can see on the back she signed it Jean Wells 2025.
Oh, that's very special, isn't it?
Yeah. And then also on the next we can see the collection, like they said, this special collection that has been put together and designed with Free Spirit to celebrate the 50 years of the Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show. So some really gorgeous prints in that. It's not quite ready to ship, that one yet,
no,
but it is coming soon.
Okay, so what do you have to do? There's
you
more.
You haven't seen this because we didn't have this yesterday. So Valerie has also made this pouch and done one of her prints on it, a beautiful swallow.
That's gorgeous.
And there's a nice little label and tassel on there. So basically Valerie's fabric bundle comes with her pouch, that's one of the prizes. Jean's bundle comes with her pin cushion. Lovely. And then the third giveaway prize is the collection of the Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show special collection.
Amazing. Okay, so what do you have to do to be within a chance for winning one of those 3 bundles? Well, everybody who signs up for the bomb or has already signed up and signs up before the end of tomorrow, Sunday, so Sunday at midnight will be the cut-off, and everybody who is signed up for them will go into the draw, and early next week we'll pull out those 3 winners.
Yes.
And we'll let you know who's won, obviously. So yes.
And wherever you are in the world, because we do have people join the programme from many different countries, then they will ship to you wherever you are, and you might be able to use them hopefully in the challenge. But like we say, that we'll talk fabrics, tools and kit as we go along every month. We'll always give you a heads up as well, and we're really excited to explore fabrics, aren't we, from the different decades. We're sure that you'll be able to pull some out from your stash, or maybe cut up some old garments, or go and ask your neighbour who knows someone who's got some fabrics. I've got some amazing fabric, well, some like orphan blocks, haven't I?
Yes, you do.
That I think are probably from the 50s that I've had sitting, that I just bought with no reason in mind, and now I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity as well. So things like that might come to light as we go along.
Yeah, or what's things that have been in your family, friends, yes, who knows.
You might want to make your own fabric inspired by a decade as we go along as well, like Valerie with her printing and things.
Yeah.
But we want to just say a few thank yous. We obviously want to thank all the special guests who have contributed in the films. Chris and James, who've put all of this together, all the graphics, the trailer and everything, and are here helping us broadcast this. Today you'll be able to watch it afterwards on YouTube as well, so you can go back, or if you want to tell a friend to watch it and find out more about the programme, then send them to Quiltfolk's YouTube, and obviously the Quiltfolk team in Oregon as well, who help us run all of these things and do all the marketing and emails and build the hubs and things like that as well.
So we hope that's given you some idea of what we're going to be doing and a bit of inspiration, and hopefully some of you will come and join us in our new block of the month. But anyway, we hope you've had a lovely hour. We've had a great time being here with you as usual.
Happy World Quilting Day
Happy
again.
World Quilting Day, yeah. And obviously
we've got to go dancing, Kate, come on.
Oh, we've got to get ready, have we? To like
got to go to our disco. No, any further questions, obviously you can get in touch with Quiltfolk as well. Their general email is hello@quiltfolk.com, or go to the website if you've got anything to ask. And we'll see you all soon,
Hope to
hopefully.
see you soon. Yeah, take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.